Hello and welcome back to the Comic Lounge. Today is back to the normal sort of content making whatever, which is just me showing you what I have picked up either from locally here in town or online, that being either eBay and so on. Mostly it's going to be eBay. But anyways, I have about here, which is going to be, normally this can be the amount, but sometimes it can be a little bit under, like it has been for a while here. But this is well, I'm gonna run of, this thing is really bad that way. At least 15 comics in total. And I got some cool ones, and I got some really interesting ones. So, without further ado, before I get into any of these, I will see you after this. As usual, when it comes to these, I either got quite a bit that I picked up here locally, or it's going to be mixed in with stuff that I have gone online, and that's what this one is. There's definitely some comic books that I picked up here locally at Highway to the Gaming Zone, which is the local shop here in town, and of course, whatever I've picked up online, that being whether it be new releases or stuff that I've been trying to look for, let's say finding good deals for lots and so on, like let's say comic lots, let's say a run of 4 or 5 comics, or just like a mix sorted, you name it. That's all. That's what I have. But this one, there's definitely a few gems mixed in. And let's get into the first one, because this one's going to be mostly DC dominated, but there's at least one lone Marvel book and a couple Image. So let's get to the first Image one, and you know what, let's get to this one first. This is one that, I got online, and since you know, I'm also a fairly big Spawn fan, and if there's one comic book series that I still keep up with, that I will get new releases for, it's at least Spawn, and you know what it is. This is number 367. This is obviously August's new Spawn title for the month. Of course, this came in the mail a little later than normally, but hey, I was buying from experimenting with another seller, but still, it came in, arrived real nicely, and it's very cool nonetheless. And just been keeping up with the new Spawn stories and so on. And this is part of the Hell Hath Arisen. This will be part 5. And I have yet to kind of get in, because I'm now kind of waiting until some of the next couple of issues come in before I actually really get into. I think I'm going to end up reading most of these Spawn issues by October time to kind of really get into the mood for that month. And these newer ones are really going to scratch that Halloween and October itch. And I do dig some of these stories, even if Todd McFarlane has returned. And I was really getting into Roy McConville's sort of writing. But either way, this will be fine. So Spawn 367. Let's get into the Image comic. This is going to be the last Image comic that I'm about to show, but this is the one that actually sparked off that video where I went through comic book runs that are fairly tough or easy to collect. This is one that kind of sparked it in a way, that finally kind of made me jump in, and I did mention this series. It was actually the first series that I actually was talking about, and this was the comic. It is Pit, number 14. This is, of course, right when the title had just went to Dale Keown's own Full Bleed Studios, taking away from Image Comics, which he had went to and, first started the title under. This is the lowest. This is beginning of the more lower print ones, and I mean this was a very lower printed title, and this is already starting to see some action. I might throw in at least a recent sale for it, but it'll be interesting. But I paid about $5 for this. this is definitely starting to creep up a little more higher than $5. So this was, and especially in fairly good condition. I mean, yeah, there's definitely some spine ticks here and there, but given that this is like the late 90s already, like what, 1997 or 98 when this was published, a lot of the feel, the printing paper and everything, it's obviously in line with Image Comics' this sort of printing quality. A lot of the later Spawn issues, they all have this sort of feel and everything where it's super high quality. And so even the fewer number of spine ticks and defects are going to not really destroy any of the overall look and the appearance of the book. It's going to still look really high grade, and so it's really nice. Still, really cool to find at least one of the more harder to find pit issues. So really cool, and I have a lot of some of the earlier ones, so that's great. Here and there, whenever I see the harder to find ones, I always tend to jump on them. Finally, let's get into the lone Marvel book, and here and there, I'll dip into the Silver Age. This is more late Silver Age, but for the price and the decent condition for it, even though it's definitely more bordering on like a very lower mid-grade, it's still pretty cool, especially for $5. But it's Captain Savage and his Battlefield Raiders. This was just when the series had switched from being Captain Savage and his Leatherneck Raiders to, of course, this, and so this is number 16. So we're kind of getting to the end of the run for this series, but it's like still, it's very late Silver Age. Just around the period, they just were switching the prices from 12 cents to 15 cents. But again, there's definitely some minor damage in here and there, like a little, almost a cut, which kind of gets through practically the entire of that, but it doesn't really destroy too much. It's still a fairly well presented book, and for $5, you know what? I'm not going to complain, and especially this is one of the more lesser interested titles for most people. So this is at least some that I normally I'm fairly fascinated with getting into. But if I can find a good price and the right kind of condition, I will jump on these Silver Age Marvel comic books. So there you have it. Captain Savage and his Battlefield Raiders, number 16. Again, if you want to know the history for the character, he, of course, Savage here, would first appear in, I believe it was Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, number 10. So there you have it. Very cool, and of course, John Severin art, really awesome no matter what. So there you have it. Now, we're going to get into nothing but the DC books. So we're going to start with some filler ones, but eventually we're going to make to some really cool ones towards the end. So stay with me. This one, they put in a whole bunch of newer comics that have been bagged, they're boarded, but they put them in a box, filled it up, and as I was looking through, there was a whole bunch of DC, a whole lot of DC. There's plenty of Bronze Age DC in here, but there was a couple Copper Age ones, that, especially one that I had been looking for a while to complete the story. But it is the New Titans number 63. This finally completes the what is referred to as the Titan Plague. But if you read the write-up, whatever, like what is it, like the note, what is it, the email or the letter page, whatever, where people kind of sent in whatever. They actually will call this the Terminator Plague, and that's because of this was the first big return for Deathstroke, who had just hadn't been seen for quite a long time. Especially, I mean, Slade at least had appeared during one of the annuals. It's like number 5 or 6 or 7, one of those. He hadn't been seen since since the whole Trial of the Terminator issues. But Slade did at least make an appearance, but again, not in Deathstroke form. This was the first really good return for the character, and it definitely sent him on the path to be more of a hardened style anti-hero. So this is the beginning of that, and that's definitely when I really started kind of getting really into checking the character out. But still, it's for my Deathstroke collection, and it finally completes a little story. So I now have all for all 4 parts now for this, and they gave me it for $1, so I couldn't complain. Especially in decent condition. It was definitely an easy snag. I was gonna try and get it in Reno at the Comic Kingdom, but it was obviously long gone, so I paid at least $1 for it. So that's good enough for me. And more filler. Here we have every once in a while when I see some of these 80s direct editions for this, I'll pick them up. But Jonah Hex, so that I had gotten, was it number 75? I need to at least get 74 because these have both the El Diablo backup story, but still great Ross Andrew and Dick Giordano cover art with, of course, Dick Ayers as the interior artist. So here we go. Again, it's in fairly decent condition, besides a little bit of a small, very tiny bit of chunk, little chunk, piece missing off the cover. It's still decent. It's fine, and especially it being a direct edition, and for $3, yeah, I'll grab it. So every once in a while, I'll grab some Jonah Hex. Here and there, I've been trying to find these in direct editions. And this one, since I got number 1, I had to get number 2 for Arian, Lord of Atlantis. So this is the second issue, and again, in a direct edition. Fairly good condition as well. More of a really good mid-grade, but still really cool. So for $3, I'll snag it, and great for Jandersema art. Can't beat it. Now, this one wasn't boarded, but I've been trying to get more of these, but this one, I would at least make an exception. It's still a fine mid-grade, but it almost pushes me more like a lower mid-grade. But it's still decent. But I got it also mainly for the backup story. But it's Warlord number 49, and as you can see, it's got a Claude the Unconquered, backup story. And there's like another character that's kind of very connected to Claude the Unconquered as far as the period that the character was introduced as part of. But still, here and there, I'll get some of these Warlord comics, especially if I see them in fairly decent condition. Some of them are not always in that great a condition, but they exist. But it's not very easy to find some of these in high-grade condition, some of these Warlords. But still, here and there, I try to dip in, especially for Mike Grell's artwork, and especially really cool artwork right there to begin with. So yeah, Warlord number 49. I think I got that like $1 or something. Come in $3. Either way, it was a decent pricing I got it for, so couldn't beat that. Now this one, here we go. Now this can be more of a filler book, but this one does have a decent value to it. But this one's actually in really good condition, and for $5, I've seen people try and sell this around way past $5, but in worse condition. This is probably the first ever nicest looking copy I have stumbled upon. But it is Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes number 239. Now, this is, of course, if you look up on, let's say, key collectors, this tends to get put under Superboy and his Legion of Superheroes. But if you go to, the League of Comics Geeks, it's still under Superboy. So, this is still just before it would just, where Superboy's name would become completely, removed, and it would just be titled Legion of Superheroes. Still, 1977, and it's a fairly good-looking copy. This is a very clean copy, even with the sort of smallest sort of minor defects here and there. It is still a great-looking copy. There's a few tiny sort of color-breaking spine ticks, but it's probably the nicest looking copy I have found so far, and I've noticed so far, because I went to eBay, and all the copies I'm seeing being sold for way past $5 look worse. There's way too many things I notice. This one's got the smallest, and it's really fairly clean. So for $5, and it's obviously one of those where they did it this way, and this one's like practically the alignment is practically on key with it. It is aligned great. No sort of bindage. There's was it like bindering? Was it? Well, I can't. I had it, but normally it's on the tip of my tongue. But you understand where there's too many where it's like completely so folded back, whatever. There's none of those. This one's like really nice. So couldn't beat that for $5. Speaking of Superboy, obviously you find these in lower grades to begin with, but there are some high grades out there, at least good mid grades, to be honest. There are good mid grades for this, but mostly you find this in lower grade condition. This one's more of a lower grade, but it's actually a pretty fine looking lower grade copy. But it's Superboy 155, and obviously for $5 I couldn't beat it, especially for the fact I had to at least get some early Neil Adams cover art in my collection. So this is still right when the time Neil Adams was still doing the artwork. He was like beginning to do it more. I mean, his first cover art was like around 1967, but this is still early in his career. So early Neil Adams, I couldn't beat it. So again, it's pretty much more of a low grade copy, but it's a fine low grade copy, and I couldn't pass up for $5. It had been staying at the shop for so long, but nobody bid on it, so I was gonna grab it. So there you have it, Superboy number 155, or just a really cool early Neil Adams cover art. So there you go. This one, I'm surprised that they were still keeping at $3. Nobody really tends to go back in the shop to re-look through their comic to see if they can like the rematch with the current fair market value. But they're keeping this at $3, just like they did with the Silverhawks. But it is Lobo number 50. This is we're getting close to the end of the run for this series. So this is number 50. They were selling this for $3. And it's in really good condition. This is a high grade copy. This is already, and I can show you already with the, for examples here, it's selling way past $3. We're getting close to the $20 to $30 mark with the value for this one, because this is a lower printed issue. And again, right during, was it Superman Blue, whatever, during this period, it really is very interesting, and it's a really cool cover nonetheless. So we'll see what happens when Jason Momoa ends up finally, we see more footage of him as Lobo, but for now, this is starting to creep up in value. So if you ever find this, definitely don't snooze on it. Snag it. It's getting up there in value for the fact that it's lower printed, and it is definitely good. And it seems to be there's plenty of high grades out there, but the print count, man, is that print count. Do not snooze on that print count. Okay, let's get into some of the more decently big ones. This one I have been eyeing there, and I got it right at the time I had picked up the new Titans number 63. Well, I was going to see, let's see how much they'll give it to me. Let's see if the person will give it to me for this much. I got a pretty good deal, but obviously it's because of the condition is what I was more afraid of. But still, I got for $1. Even it's a lower grade copy, I still got $1 for it instead of being forced to paying high grade price. It is Green Lantern number 141. This is the first appearance of the Omega Man, and since I showed Lobo, it's because of the Omega Man series that we ever got the Lobo character, and this is the first appearance. Again, written by Marv Wolfman, with, of course, the cover art being drawn by the late George Perez. So there you have it. It's pretty much a low-grade copy in a way, but it's still a decent low-grade copy, and still, for $1, at least being given it for $1, I couldn't be disappointed in it. It's still a pretty good deal. It's a good snag. I have been seeing it. Nobody obviously was grabbing at it. Nobody was looking through the boxes to get it. All because of most of the people were always looking out for a higher grade. Sometimes for me, low grade is better than no grade. So I'm happy to have a copy of the first appearance of the Omega Men. So there you have it. Green Lantern number 141. Now, to finally end off this video with, I had gotten these off of eBay. Originally, I had tried getting these for around $7. The person that was selling these had like a 25 or 20% off deal on them, and I snagged them. Well, problem was they weren't getting shipped, and then when I asked, they were going to ship it out the next day or the next morning, but they could not locate the comics. They could not locate them, and so I got refunded, and I found another haul for another lot for the same 4 comics for just a bit more, around $13. Still, it's not too bad. Some of them are actually in pretty good condition for my surprise, but it is. Since I mentioned Claw the Unconquered, let's get to the series that really helped kind of kick off the DC implosion. I'm talking about Stalker. This is, of course, all 4 issues. This is all 4. This is how much you only got left for the series. It only lasted for 4 issues. It technically, from what I have heard or read, it got canceled by the 3rd issue, and the 4th issue, I guess, was supposed to stay unreleased or unpublished. But then all of a sudden, it got accidentally put on the list of comics that were supposed to be put out for publishing, and then that's how we end up getting it. And as you can see, this is actually a fairly, a decently, almost close to a high-grade copy, and for the price, really, if you're in total, $3.37 really is what it would have been the price if you were to make up for $13.49. It's pushing it to being $3.37, because if you multiply, you go in more, a little higher, it bakes it to more. Still, $3. Still $3. Even with the smallest little defects here and there, you can't go wrong with at least paying $3 for a decently high grade copy for the final issue of Stalker. But again, there's number 1 of the series, the first appearance of Stalker. Again, the man with the stolen soul. Great Steve Ditko artwork, by the way. This definitely is more dabble in like the sword and sorcery genre. You have, again, there's number 1. These are definitely the more that are kind of mid-grade copies. Still fine to begin with, but they're definitely pushing to be more higher, lower mid-grades, whatever. But again, number 2, just because there's definitely a little bit of a little crease right there, and then of course a dog ear. A little dog ear right there, and some spine ticks here and there. Still, couldn't go wrong with that. And then of course here's number 3 right there. This one's probably the more lower graded copy, really, just because of some of that and some of the other extra spine ticks here and there. But I knew what I was getting, and there's definitely a little bit of other small things like me, sticky whatever stuff. Not really sticky, but stuff there that I don't know if you can really see it. Nah, it's not really going to show up. I don't feel like taking it out of the bag anyway. But there's a little extra residue somewhere there. But still, from a far view, you're not going to notice it too much unless you put up in the light. Then you'll notice. But yeah, still really awesome. I've been wanting to try and get these the Stalker issues for a long time now. Ever since I had read, I had found out about the Stalker series and all the other DC Implosion titles as part of this book right here, the DC Year by Year, a Visual Chronicle series, which is a really, really cool read, nonetheless, with some good write-ups, some backups, telling you who the artists and the writers are, and so on. There's a lot of good history that are actually in here, and compared to the Marvel book that I also have, this is my favorite, just because it actually turned me on to some titles I never knew about, and it really is a really cool one, and I had it for a long time, and it's because of this that I found about the Stalker series, and so I easily had to put that in my want list just because of it just looks so cool. I like the sword and sorcery stuff. It's also a bit of inspired by the Eternal Champion character from Michael Moorcock. So either way, it's really awesome, and I can't wait to kind of check some of those out, but it's really nice. So with that, if you have any thoughts on any of the comics I just showed, you can all leave them down in the comments section below, but if there's some that now you probably are kind of interested in looking into or redigging into your own collection, if you have them, I hope you're happy. So you can thank me. So until then, this is the Thrashhead at the Comic Lounge saying, keep on reading, keep on buying, and just keep on collecting and just hunting whatever comic books, everybody. Take care.